much of a priority it is, but they're going to instantly grab that Aphelios for Doggo, and he has been so good on this pick. Now for RNG, Xin Zhao would make a lot of sense if they wanted to lock it down. They could be pretty non-committal and taking that AD carry alongside. They could prioritize support. Leona, very high priority with Thresh down. It looks like they might just go for the Jinx and go for this sort of the matchup we've seen quite a bit in this meta.
Yes, we have. And importantly, I want to mention the fact that Doggo has taken this Aphelios, which, you know, he's played 3 times. Everybody's been playing Aphelios. Gala has 8 Aphelios games this split. There are players that don't even have 8 games this split. Gala's played Aphelios 8 times, so feels like taking a crutch away from RNG a little bit there, and the Nautilus taken by Ming. And it feels like with the Thresh off of the board, these peel supports really not as favorable as they were in week number 1 of the split, and much more of the hard engage being locked in for the support.
And we often see the Nautilus picked into the Aphelios simply because Aphelios' range kind of forces you to be in a position where Nautilus can ult you and can make such a big difference. You can't dive away from it, can't dodge it. Gale Force won't help. BLG going to lock in that Viego, so not quite as much early impact as some of the other junglers that we see in the high priorities, the Lee Sins, the Xin Zhao, but after level 6, the skirmishing is pretty insane. Now, BLG, they could take the Corki out, they could match the support. Leona is a good matchup in the Nautilus and very powerful at setting up plays with Glacial Augment, so they will secure that one. RNG, I feel like it has to be a jungler. Xin Zhao makes sense in my mind. They could go for the Lee Sin, but I feel like Xin is the obvious prospect. Alternatively, they're fine to leave jungler. They could take the Corki in this situation, or even go for the Gwen.
There it is, lock in for Gwen for Bin in that top side. So getting a strong top laner. And now they have 2 bans as well to work with to set Bin up for success in the top side. And then they can always go for counter pick for Xiaohu as the last one. So I like the way that RNG are approaching this draft.
Yeah, and the thing is, as much as they lose a bit of jungle priority, and we'll see BLG targeting the Xin Zhao that we talked about, it secures a really strong pick at the top lane for Bin. Jace, one of the really bad matchups for Gwen, could also look towards things like the Jax, even just like the stable blinds that go into it, like the Graves, like the Gragas. We'll see what RNG opt to go with that second one. And for BLG, you could just ban the Lee Sin here as well, right? Take away, there's those upper 4 junglers that are really heavily prioritized. The Xin Zhao, the Jarvan, the Viego, and the Lee Sin have been just far and above prioritized than anything else we've seen. So it would make sense just to thin the pool on that.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm really curious what we're going to see out from Xiaohu as well this game, because I want to quickly, you know, I already mentioned the Gala, 8 games on that Aphelios. Well, Xiaohu has 10 different champion played already this split. 10 different champion picks played already. So what he locks in for the mid lane, we will have to wait and see. I'd be surprised to see a mid lane lock-in, though, instead of jungle when you already know what jungler you're up against.
Well, I think the thing is, it depends if there's a mid laner you want to prioritize. And we've talked about how hotly contested this Corki is because of how well it scales. And already RNG's composition looks monstrous in the late game. You know BLG aren't going to pick a jungler because they already have one, so you take that pick. For BLG, FoFo can look to pressure this with a more aggressive pick, something like the Syndra, the Zoe, the LeBlanc, LeBlanc's band, Zoe, the Syndra, or you could just take the Viktor, a matchup we've seen a lot, and it will have the early pressure. For Breathe, I think you can go the Jax if you want to be able to match Gwen in the side lane later on, but you won't be as useful in team fights, so we'll see what he opts to go for. Definitely would suit him.
Yeah, we'll have to see. The Jax certainly can do well into that Gwen during the laning phase as well, being able to dodge a lot of the damage, and it will be locked in. So Breathe versus Bin, and we have Gwen versus Jax. That is an exciting top lane. It goes against everything we were saying about top lane in the opening segment. No tanks up there today. And now down to this jungle pick for RNG. A lot of them banned away. Curious where they go.
Yeah, I mean, maybe things like the Trundle. I mean, Olaf's been hovering. They're just going to lock that one straight in. So obviously going to ignore a lot of the CC offered by BLG, right? Can run through the gravity field. Leona doesn't really do anything to slow you down. And I think it's important that they have a jungler who can contest early. Yes, there are picks that can obviously scale quite well and farm up, but you're not going to have the most pressure in the mid lane thanks to Corki. You know, the bot lane as well, the Aphelios does tend to have more early pressure. So I think this makes sense. Wei needs to have some agency to allow his laners to scale, because honestly, as much as you look at Jax, Viktor, and Aphelios and think, wow, those are great in the late game, RNG having Corki, Gwen, and Jinx is just insane. The range discrepancy is a massive thing, and Corki, I feel like he just outscales anything in the game almost.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, you're against the Aphelios. We keep on talking about this. Aphelios against ranged compositions can really struggle to have an impact. We'll see if BLG are going to be able to play more of a side lane based game. With that Jax, there's always the option of trying to go for a split push, but ever since the Dragon Soul mechanic came in a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, it doesn't feel like side lane has ever really been an option since that point. So we'll just have to wait and see how that's all going to pan out. But Aux, I'm excited. We've got our Spring Gala. It's about to kick off. We actually have Gala in the Spring Gala as well. What a coincidence. It's RNG against BLG. It's game number 1 with a lot on the line. BLG currently flawless in the LPL. RNG currently sat in 3rd. They could push themselves to 2nd with a win here. And it feels like a lot of eyes on this series. A lot to prove for each of these teams. Fighting to be proven as one of the top teams in the LPL. It's time to get on to Summoner's Rift, and it's time to kick off the Spring Gala.
The head-to-head as well is a big thing to talk about when you have 2 top teams going up against each other. Seeding could come down to the wire, and if you get this series win, this is the only time you face them before playoffs. It will give you that head-to-head advantage. Oh my god. That's huge.
We're in a box. It's like the Truman Show. I feel like I'm just... Wait, we're toys all along? Oh my
The
Lord.
whole time. Found out the secret law.
My entire life has just been flipped upside down. I feel like Will Smith about to go to Bel Air or something. I don't know where I'm going with that. Let's talk about the junglers here. Wei versus WeiWei. Now, as funny as it is to say that matchup, it's going to be crucial how these 2 junglers are able to impact the early game, right? We keep on talking about scaling, but we've seen in the LPL, teams don't necessarily respect scaling, right? Teams don't necessarily only play for scaling. Even if they have late game picks, that won't stop them playing for the early game.
Absolutely. I think that's the big thing, is that like a lot of people think when they hear scaling, they think, oh, you're going to do nothing until 30 minutes. It's like scaling just means you're really strong in the later stages. That doesn't mean you don't need to do anything. And as much as Viktor and Corki are both scaling picks, you know, Viktor has more early impact, and that's what I want to see WeiWei play around, right? You should have priority in that mid lane, and it's going to lend yourself quite heavily. Really, I think Wei can be quite comfortable as long as his laners aren't getting significantly punished. But both of these 2 could end up just seeing them just trying to provide, right? If a laner ends up overextended, you sort of help them out, you help them push the wave in, you make sure they're covered, and not really needing to force too many ganks or anything at this point of the game.
Yeah, there's no onus on them, right, to force the issue. They don't need to make plays. It's more just finding those opportunities. And that is one of the things that we've been saying about both of these teams. They have been opportunistic so far, especially BLG, in the way that they've been playing the game is wait for the opponent to make a mistake and then find an opportunity to punish. But looking towards the scoreboard, so far FoFo having a massive CS lead. Now, I can't see the wave right now. I'm going to assume that Xiaohu will be able to close that at least somewhat. But I want to talk about this mid lane matchup a little bit.
Yeah.
Xiaohu has had an amazing split so far. FoFo leaving a lot to be desired, as is Crisp apparently, as he gets hooked in and takes a couple of hits from Gala. That's a trade from the bottom lane of RNG. But back to the mid lane conversation. We need to see FoFo step up.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel like he should be applying the pressure in this matchup because the Corki is going to become such a problem later on. The package obviously hugely impactful around objectives, but also those rockets really cause issue for both Doggo and FoFo. And this is how the matchup you kind of go. We've seen a lot of Corki Viktor, but it is very much around the Viktor applying that early pressure, having the priority, trading into them. But Xiaohu makes a great decision here, right? Sacrifices his health, but manages to push the wave up quicker while FoFo was focused on trading. So now he gets to reset and he can TP back in the lane. He can walk back in the lane. More than comfortable and has picked up that tier as well. So all things considered, Xiaohu pretty happy with the early laning phase.
Yeah, good stuff so far and relatively even across the board, with Gala having a small CS lead in that bottom lane as well. But as we're going to see, Wei just going to set for the recall, and he'll drop that ward at the last second, I would imagine here. There it is, onto the Krugs. So he'll have full knowledge of what WeiWei is up to. And right on cue, WeiWei shows up, spotted on those Krugs, and so RNG are playing with full information.
Yeah, we talk so much about Ming and Wei, and that was just an example of it. Ming has the priority, moves up with his jungler, makes sure there's 2 of them. If they do run into WeiWei, then obviously they'll have the advantage. They don't, but look at the vision they managed to get that down this early in the game. They have the scuttle on the bot side, 3 wards in his bot side jungle, and then a control ward covering Xiaohu. There's no way WeiWei can do anything in this situation without getting spotted. And as a result, he'll put some pressure down bot, but there's full information available for RNG, and he's really just going to, you know, have to walk back to his jungle and continue farming.
Yeah, so far at least, as we are going to see the first Drake spawning in 20 seconds time. And in they go with a bit of a trade down in this bottom side, but the anchor comes out from Ming to get into the wall. There's a Graviton flash forward from Doggo, who's making a statement once more. We said to watch the bot lane, and Crisp and Doggo pop off again.
Huge play coming out, and Ming just disrespectful, right? It's a massive wave coming in. There's no reason you need to try and contest it. Just let it crash into the tower. But instead he steps up, and this is why you have to be so concerned in this matchup between the Leona and Nautilus, because if Leona goes in, she is way tankier than you are, right? Gala can't do too much to turn around, and Ming is actually surprisingly squishy once the aftershock wears off. Doggo playing this perfectly, throws out the Q in both forms, using the weapon juggling very effectively, manages to find the kill, and that's a great advantage, right? Something we talked about is when it's Jinx against Aphelios, Aphelios needs the early advantage, otherwise he does end up getting outscaled due to the range, so this is what we want to see.
Certainly is. Wei will get spotted on the way out of the jungle there. The ward in the Dragon Pit should mean that BLG at least have an idea that he was in there trying to get vision. You can see Crisp moving down through that jungle, might be able to find that pink ward and clear away that deep vision that RNG are working so hard to get. See, Crisp actually walked past it, didn't spot it. So the ward will still do a lot of work for RNG. That's a nice little interaction for them, nice little find. Deep vision as Breathe just going to TP back up towards that top lane. In the meantime, Wei going to start off a Drake.
Yeah, and honestly, as much as the early kill, the Doggo in the bot lane isn't ideal for RNG, I think RNG have been playing this early game exactly how they want, right? They've been setting up that vision repeatedly in the bot side to kind of track WeiWei. They don't want anything to happen. We have a comfortable top lane scenario with Bin just happy to farm up, and Wei's starting a stack of objectives. Olaf very good at clearing, very good at dealing with this objective solo, and if you can continue to do this, it will really set the team up for success. Now, WeiWei is approaching that level 6 point, and the skirmishing does spike very hard once Viego gets access to that. Obviously, it's the fact that you can use your passive and then ult for the reset, obviously, which is a ton of damage, but also you choose when you leave a target, because there's been so many times I've seen, you know, a support dies before level 6, Viego jumps in, and then it's like, I don't want to be a Thresh anymore, right? I've used my abilities, and it's just so useless.
Yeah, there's a lot of Threshers that feel like that, but they don't have the option. Throw out the hook, throw out the E, wait for 20 seconds while you try and get your abilities back again. Does feel good to be a Viego player, I guess. But there it is, that level 6 mark that you were talking about, just been hit by WeiWei. We'll see if he'll find an impact on the game. That pink ward we talked about has been cleared by BLG at this point, so not the same level of information as before. WeiWei is trying to find an opportunity in this bottom side of the map by the looks of things. Whether or not he finds it is a different question.
We've kind of seen this top lane matchup going pretty favorably for Bin so far. I think a big factor is we see Gwen taking the Ignite, right? Sometimes we see Ghost for the more teamfight power, but Ignite really can change a lot of matchups. It's very hard for Breathe to look for an all-in when you know that extra damage, the healing reduction can make a big difference. He is reliant on the Corrupting Potion and put it down.
Xiaohu just waiting patiently, tapping his foot, looking at his watch. It's like he's waiting for a bus. The package finally shows up. Okay, time to fight, says Xiaohu.
Oh, everyone's moving.
How does this happen? Talk me through it, Aux.
Well, I think the big thing for BLG is you get a kill. You get a kill, you get the resets. That's how you find the momentum. If you don't find an early kill, I think RNG are favor the package so instrumental when it comes down to these fights.
Yeah, this is pre-package changes as well, so still going to be just as strong, still going to be just as common. But the crab taken away here, that was actually a smite out from WeiWei. Looks like the second one a little way off coming up. Perhaps a misplay by WeiWei, but looks like there will be enough time for that to come up before the Herald is actually kicked off properly. But RNG on the scene right now. Vision fully here for BLG with that Scuttle Crab. Xiaohu playing very aggressively, using the package as an equalizer to try and stop BLG pushing in. They're happy to wait, at least for the time being, but the Herald has already gone down. RNG, they take the Herald. Can they all escape with their lives? Spin away over the wall. Crisp has gone a little deep on this one. He realizes it, backs off straight away. But hey, RNG, it's daylight robbery.
I love the call from RNG, right? They know the package is down. That's their big team fighting tool. That's the reason they were so confident there and why BLG was so hesitant to walk forwards. As soon as it's gone, they could still fight, but why risk it? Why try and take a fight when you're trapped in the Herald pit, when there's the potential for Viego resets? So they simply opt to get out. All they lose is the flash from Wei. So 100% the right call. And RNG playing this early game really effectively. Second objective neutral that they've managed to secure.
Going to dash away on the top side as WeiWei makes an attempt there, but nothing going to come of it. Xiaohu was spotted on a ward, perhaps looking for an opportunity to get a bit of a fight with FoFo, who's just desperately trying to clear the waves, get priority in the mid lane. But it's always going to be difficult against a Corki post 6. Those rockets just so good at clearing the wave as quickly as he likes, just finding that priority for the mid lane. I want to return to the conversation this bottom lane though, because that one kill doesn't feel like it's going to be impactful too much in the short term, but I want to talk about priority, right? Because we've got Gala on the Jinx. He will consistently be able to find push. We've got another Drake coming up in just over a minute. Then for Soul, it feels like RNG, with the way that they're playing these neutral objectives, are set up beautifully to just keep stacking these Drakes.
But the critical thing, right, is this dragon in 1 minute won't be synced with the package. This is actually probably the best window for BLG to grab a dragon early. Because if they leave it, right, RNG will have 2, and then they'll also start syncing up the package with the dragon. That's when it becomes very difficult. So honestly, I would like to see them try and set up for this one. I think they are in a position where they could take a fight. And again, not having the package available to RNG significantly weakens them. So we'll see if they try and make moves on that side. You can already see Crisp is looking to push up in the river and trying to establish some control. But not sure if you'll be able to find too much in the meantime. Herald's going to come down mid, applying a lot of pressure here.
That's going to be 3 plates and 2 plates worth of gold just being pocketed by Xiaohu directly. So nice little influx for the RNG mid laner and very much the star player on this squad, or at least so far this split. And, you know, it's exciting to talk about the fact that Xiaohu has been pretty much the star player for RNG so far, considering coming into this year, I remember a lot of people talking about this roster, a lot of people in the community believing that RNG wouldn't be able to function with Xiaohu as a mid laner instead of a top laner, not feeling confident that this was going to work out. So far, so good though for Xiaohu. It feels like he has really started to split off well.
Absolutely, and this matchup's been going really well, right? FoFo has a slight CS advantage, but we've seen this matchup go so much with. I specifically remember Xiaohu on the Viktor playing into Gory and the Corki at the start of the split and solo killing him. That is obviously an extreme example, but Viktor should be able to garner advantage here. And the fact that it's only a very minor CS advantage shows that Xiaohu has been doing great. And in fact, because he has first strike and because he got those plates, he's going to be ahead in gold and scaling excellently. So we also see RNG make the call not to contest the dragon, which, you know, I said this was BLG's window to potentially contest. RNG don't even give them the opportunity. And I think they've played this so smart. They really sort of respect the fact that they have this powerful scaling aspect in the Corki Jinx, and they don't take any fights they don't need to.
And, you know, it feels tense, doesn't it? Because we have these two teams that are both good at acknowledging win conditions. They're both smart about how they play the game, and they're both playing I don't want to say necessarily a reactive style, but a very intelligent style where they are going to play towards the appropriate options that they have. And so it feels like both teams playing with a lot of respect. And part of that is down to the fact that we have essentially 9 veterans on the Rift today, right? Like, outside of Doggo, pretty much everyone has been playing for 2 years or more across the course of this. And Doggo, you know, very, very fresh. It's his first year in the LPL. It's his second year as a competitive player. It feels like, despite that experience deficit, he's been one of the most exceptional players on BLG this year. But definitely feels like with that pressure, it's good that he's got these veterans.
Absolutely. I think it's a major thing to be able to have people who can support you, you know, and then also people to call the shots when you sort of need to be directed. But I do think there's been those individual moments like we saw earlier, the kill he got onto Ming. We've seen in countless other games where he's found a personal moment where he's been able to step up, see an opportunity, and there's windows for that here, right? Got the Gale Force on the Aphelios, obviously a lot of agency in that item, the ability to dash forward and make a big play. We've seen some succeed with it, some attempt it.
For God's sake, Aux.
Let
it die. Poor Abel. Poor Abel. It's roasting time and time again. I love how you find something that annoys you. It's like your Corki packages. They're just specific things in the game that just drive you insane, and you just can't drop them.
It's just, I just can't stop thinking about them. Whenever I think about Aphelios, about Gale Force, it's there in my mind, right? I look
like
down the scoreboard.
Awake at night under your duvet, just staring at the ceiling. Abel's Aphelios in your head.
Honestly, I wish it wasn't true, but that's literally how it is.
That's the life that we lead. We're going to see vision cleared by BLG here. Luckily, it's Doggo on Aphelios, so none of those shenanigans. He only does that when he's playing Ziggs, and somehow Satchel charges himself into the enemy base and gets taken out. They still won that game, though, so not too bad. Wei in the top side. Breathe could be in trouble here, but the Counter-Strike will buy him a lot of time in this kind of 2v1. As WeiWei moves in, it's going to be a 2v2 here. Breathe forced to flash immediately. And WeiWei decides that's not a 2v1 he wants to take.
And it's just, you know, we've seen these top laners, a little bit of skirmishing back and forth, a little bit of fighting. Just a bait there, getting Breathe to jump on you, because Breathe could have just backed off, wouldn't have had to be in a flash. So it's a small advantage, but it's something. And the thing is, not having the flash and the Jax definitely hurts your abilities to team fight. Being able to use that flash stun mechanic and catch people off guard. But after that, they are just going to reset. WeiWei's looking for this Herald on the top side, but he is on vision. Xiaohu has synced up the package with the Herald, and it will be burnt now. So big play from Crisp. A Dragon Up coming in from 1 minute 20 will be packageless. And honestly, I'm going to say it right. We were just talking about the packages. Why are you grabbing the package now if you're not fighting for the Herald? That's my question.
Yeah, definitely not ideal from the side of Xiaohu. And it kind of shows a weakness of the package that people don't often talk about as well, is you lose your Valkyrie, right? When you're holding that package, you cannot just Valkyrie to safety without using a massive cooldown. And it's like, honestly, sometimes it feels like there's a question of, should you actually package out there or should you just flash, right?
And you know
just
what?
to try and save that package for the fight.
There's also the second hidden impact, the downside of the package, is that when people grab it, they get super hyped and just run forwards into super close range. Where's Chris going to engage on you? That's right. It's every time you see a Corki come on the base of the package, he's always up in people's faces. Like, you have a million range.
You gotta go. Crisp is in trouble though, but he has that aftershock. He's damn tanky, and Ming is finding that out firsthand. But WeiWei looks to be the first to go down. As Gala following up with the damage. WeiWei falls finally 1-for-1 so far. As FoFo trying to get this damage down on the Viktor, trying to finish these health bars off. Not quite close the gap, at least for the time being. At Gravity, well, keep everyone safe though. As BLG now wrestle control of the area. They don't have a jungler though, so trying to start the Drake, I'm not sure that would be a play. In the meantime, I'm pretty sure Bin got a solo kill.
Yeah, just took him out. Obviously, the flash being unavailable, hitting Breathe chances, but it feels like Bin has been edging ahead in this matchup, and this is a disaster for BLG. You had the counter pick. You didn't opt for a safe blind. You opted for something to match the Gwen, and the fact it is losing 1v1 is a disaster. First tower going to go over to Bin and just make the matchup even more painful. And that's the thing, right? This is why this champion is so insane. It's not just that he's good in the side lane. Bin will be a monster in team fights. Now, we're going to get a replay of this. So, Aftershock obviously makes Crisp a difficult target. But I think the big thing is WeiWei just gets chunked and he doesn't get a reset for so long. This stopwatch is huge because it baits WeiWei in for the reset. He ends up taking so much more damage. And by the time he finally does reset, he's so low already. We do get the replay here. And yeah, I mean, Gwen is so strong. And I think Breathe been in the Counter-Strike and then going back in range, definitely a mistake.
Yeah, and that third needlework always just completely shreds and then ignite. Feels like there's nothing Breathe can do on that one. The Counter-Strike is not going to stop the true damage coming on in. So fantastic stuff from Bin. And it feels good to see Bin doing so well on this RNG roster because as RNG start this Drake off, I don't think there'll be any contest from the side of BLG. So I'll continue my point. Bin having to replace Xiaohu in the top lane, weirdly enough, feels like massive pressure, right? Xiaohu was such a prolific top laner last year that it felt like there was pressure for Bin to show up on this roster.
Especially when he's still on your team. So
yeah.
anytime you like lose a 1v1 or something, you like, is he just sitting there thinking, I would have won that, you know?
It's like that famous quote from the Beatles. John Lennon was famously said in an interview that, you know, someone asked him if Ringo was the best drummer in the world. He was like, Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. It feels like Bin could end up in that kind of situation if he's not careful. So it's good to see him showing up. Herald using that top side to get themselves a tower here. It's 2 towers to 1, though, in favor of RNG, as they've done an excellent job of playing the map so far. 1,000 gold lead as we broach the 19-minute mark.
Yeah, and the big thing is, right, yes, they have the Herald, but it was a 1-for-1 tower trade, so the Herald didn't really accomplish much. And we look at the earlier usage from RNG, they got a couple of plates mid lane, but on top of that, that mid tower is low, and it's such an instrumental one, especially with Corki and Viktor in the mid lane, both with a lot of wave clear. Hard to take those mid towers. Getting it low already, really instrumental for RNG, so they've definitely gotten more value out of their first Herald now. BLG looking for a way, but he will just be able to walk off this one.
Good smite as well, stealing away that crab as the contest came out from Wei. Oh, in fact, I guess it was a contest from Wei rather than WeiWei, but getting away with that one, stealing away the vision of the situation. I need to stop saying away when I'm talking about Wei and WeiWei. This is honestly,
yeah, you've got to find a different way to describe it.
Nightmare. It's like last series, like you realize how often you say the word able when you're casting able. You know, they need to stop using real words as their names. It's too difficult.
I mean, I feel like it's fine as long as it's not a super common one, right? Like crisp and bin, we don't say that often, or breathe, right? It's not often enough to become a thing. It's like filler words. I think the problem is when it's a filler word, that's when it can become really painful. Imagine if some player called themselves and.
They're able to get away
a bit. They're able to get in the way. Yeah, we'll say that about it.
Yeah, well, 28 minutes and a half on the clock right now, which means Baron is on the cards of both teams, but I'm more interested in that Drake that comes up just under 3 minutes time. Rocket onto Doggo. I'm a little surprised by that one from Gala, but, you know, each to their own. As Ming tries to get some vision control of the area. It feels like Dragon is spawning in a second with the way that these two teams are posturing. Wei could be caught out, has to use the Ragnarok before the fight ever even kicks off to stop the fight kicking off.
Yeah, it feels like both teams are fighting over the vision early, but also fishing for anything they can burn, right? Ultimate from the Olaf, not really substantial, but if you can burn a summoner, this is the perfect window, because let's say you burn a Leona ult and then they burn a flash or a cleanse. The cleanse and flash won't be up for the dragon, the Leona will. So that's like the perfect window where if you find any advantage, it's going to really come to fruition on this next dragon, and this will be one they look to fight. RNG would have 3 if they are able to secure it, putting them on soul point, and with the package going to be synced up with it, they will no doubt look to fight that one, and BLG will no doubt want to stop them.
Yeah, and we need to crucially talk about items before this Drake comes up as well, because you can see Gala very close to finishing his second item, as well as having boots. In fact, finishes it as I speak. On the other side, Doggo having the Collector as well as that Gale Force, but I'm looking at the mid lane difference right now, because Xiaohu has finished that Manamoon, finished the Ludens, and now we see FoFo pick up his second item as well. So we're seeing some significant spikes across the board, but the big difference is in that top lane. 2 items plus boots for Bin, whereas for Breathe, he will not finish the Blade of the Rune King before this fight kicks off.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that Nash's 2 second on the Gwen, generally not seen as the better team fighting option, right? If you want better team fighting, things like Zhonya's, things like Cosmic Drive, those items lend themselves a bit more because you get less opportunities to auto-attack. This build is definitely strong in the side lane, but even so, the item advantage is still going to be relevant. Now, Xiaohu has reset, will pick up that package, or maybe he won't quite yet, waiting for a little bit longer. But 2 items on that Corki, able to pick up a pretty big CS lead, and you can kind of see he's just been going back and forth across the map, grabbing waves whenever he can. And it has meant that despite FoFo having a small CS lead coming out the laning phase, we really have seen Xiaohu build up pretty substantially.
And it blows my mind when you see this in a game. Like, we're 22.5 minutes in, or getting towards 23 now, and you've got like every single lane is on at least 10 CS per minute, at least. And then you've got Xiaohu mid, who's on more than that. It's like, where do they even find all of this CS? Is this all just waste CS that they're all taking? Like, I don't even know how this is possible.
Well, I think that is a factor. Jungle camps are being taken on spawn by everyone, but also very few times are we seeing waves being left to die to towers. Very often they're being picked up, but now RNG moved down. Xiaohu has the package, and it looks like, because they have control of the area, BLG won't even opt to contest this, which is pretty painful, if I'll be honest.
Yeah, BLG deciding now is not the moment. And, you know, I respect the decision. I respect them saying, look, we don't think we can fight against this Corki package for the time being. Maybe they can set something up around Baron once the package times out, once that's used. But as you say, it's difficult because now in 5 minutes time, RNG will be able to just fight the Drakes over and over again, and every single time, even if BLG wins, RNG will have that opportunity. Xiaohu with the package in the bottom side. Breathe is going to be in big trouble here. I think RNG are just going to settle for a tower. They're happy with that one. 3 versus 4 in the mid lane, though. As Doggo goes forward to try and finish these kills, he can't do the damage just yet, though. Gala stunned up by the gravity well from FoFo as they try and escape. Rocket through. Nobody goes down.
Yeah, but critically, RNG managed to get the tower bot and should get this tower mid as well. So despite the fact that BLG get out without losing anyone, they lose out in terms of these objectives, and RNG is just bolstering the lead. And I feel like they really haven't missed a beat. There was that one mistake in the laning phase from Ming. Other than that, it feels like they've made decisions throughout the game. It hasn't been them being caught off guard. It's like them saying, okay, we're not going to fight this dragon. We'll fight this one. We're going to put the vision here. We'll do this. We'll do that. Very orchestrated, and as a result, they feel fully in control. A 3,000 gold lead, 3 minutes and 45 seconds until that dragon for them to get soul, and you can see how strong their carries are right now. It's really starting to feel rough for BLG.
Yeah, big leads across the board. 30 CS lead in the mid lane, well, while on even kills, and it means that there's a bounty there for Xiaohu with the plates that he got as well. And then the same story in the top side, right? A singular kill and a 30 CS lead means that Bin's on that bounty as well. So does feel like individually the solo lanes from RNG finding those advantages. We're 25 minutes in with only 4 kills on the board. That is rare in an LPL game, but it doesn't feel like nothing's been happening, right? It doesn't feel like this is just a game where the teams are asleep. They're constantly checking each other, but there's so much respect between these two teams that they don't want to take the wrong fight because they know the other team will punish them so hard.
I think BLG need to start fishing for those windows, though, because at this point, right, if you wait that 2 minute 45, RNG with the lead and having the package once again will be extremely hard to beat. You need to try and force something. If it's a flash from someone, if it's a summoner, if you make sure that's down for Baron, that can make a big difference. But ultimately, it just feels very difficult because Gala is ramping up. Xiaohu is very strong on this Corki, almost level 16. The Rockets get a big spike then, and it's hard to see how they're going to close the gap on this Corki.
Yeah, feels like playing from range will be the way for RNG as Crisp finds the engage with a solar flare. That's how they close the gap. Mr. Hawks is Crisp. Styles all over Xiaohu. Now Bin on the back line. Trying to finish people off. Doggo flashes over the wall, but he's out of the fight completely for the time being. 4v4, but it should be re-engaged. There's a nice little kill for FoFo as well. 2 kills. In fact, 2 kills on both solo laners. Those gold gaps we just talked about put into the bin by BLG.
And that's a critical error, right? All they needed was one, and BLG were waiting. Instead of opting into those packaged dragon fights, they decide to wait until someone makes a mistake, and it ends up being Xiaohu, and then Bin overstays to try and make things a bit way with no flash. No way he gets in the Baron pit. So that's picked up by BLG. They'll equalize in terms of gold, and they'll have those extra Baron stats for the next fight. Now we can see what happened here. And Wei feels super confident walking forwards because, you know, he has his ult, but Xiaohu shouldn't be here. And Chris makes that beautiful snap flash stun. Doesn't give him any chance to react. This is a Corki with Valkyrie and flash, but he doesn't give him the room to get away.
Done here, and crucial for BLG, right? This was such a pivotal moment in the game because it felt like everything was slowly but surely getting away from them. We're now exactly neck and neck in gold. There's 100 difference, 0 difference now between these two teams in terms of that gold difference with a minute on this streak. This would be sold for RNG, but BLG have control of the river.
Yeah, the big thing, Baron is going to help them push the waves in and make it hard for RNG to contest in the priority. So they are forced away, really instrumental, because every dragon before where we've seen RNG, they've been the ones who control the area. And the question to me is, maybe RNG just end up giving up this dragon, right? You're fighting against the extra Baron stats, you don't have control of the area. You're not the ones who are sort of facing potential soul on the enemy team, so they might end up just giving this one up. We'll see, but the package has been grabbed regardless by Xiaohu. We'll have that one available.
Yeah. And all this standing gold around the map being swept up now as a TP comes through from Breathe just to secure this Drake. And I think you're right. I think the correct decision from RNG would be to not contest this Drake, but maybe they go for a smite. Maybe they just try and get a 50-50, because even if you lose a couple of people, ultimately you'd get the soul. You keep that for the rest of the game. You're going to see the contest. RNG desperate to try and fight their way into this river, but it's difficult against this Baroned up BLG squad.
I think the big thing is watch Xiaohu and see if he can fish for any poke. If they find some effective poke, it might change things. But look at the engage.
Hook in. WeiWei flashes out to the back of the fight. Is Breathe trying to buy space for the rest of his squad. Stun and then flash. Solar Flare is beautiful from Crisp. And Big gets out with his life. Breathe, sorry, on the back line here. He's on a flank position.
He should just be dead.
I don't think he should be here. Wei Solo almost gets the kill on. I don't know how he got away with that for so long. He does go down though. Breathe has been dealt with. It means it's 4v5. BLG's still going to fight for this one as Crisp on the front line, taking massive damage. Bin is just on a tear, and now Doggo's in trouble. Chased down by the enemy top laner. Drops his turret. But look at the damage from the needlework. He goes down for his trouble, but that is monstrous. BLG have been taken apart, and now Ming over the wall. Xiaohu trying to chase FoFo down. He's on the wrong side of the map, but surely Xiaohu can stop the execute happening. Flash from FoFo. He will get executed. But at what cost, Aux? At what cost?
Yeah, flashes, saves the bounty. The Sajumi comes out. That's how I'd feel as well. The dragon is secured, and it's the soul on top of it. And this is where I sort of jump back to that second dragon. There's earlier ones, right, where BLG opted not to contest when RNG had the package, didn't have the package synced up. I feel like it was so important to slow it down, because the problem is when you let RNG get to this point where they have 3 dragons, it only takes one fight, and now they have this permanent buff for the rest of the game. You can see the fight. Initially, the package is so good for splitting Breathe off, right? And BLG find without RNG's tools available, they can look to engage, but RNG are like, fine, we'll just back away. We'll kill your top laner. And then the problem comes here, right? In terms of the fighting strength, BLG should back off. They've lost a member. But they know they can't just give up the dragon, so they feel forced to stay in. Bin is so incredibly strong. BLG end up split. And I mean, just look at this third needlework that comes out.
Just one shot.
It's so... What is this champion, honestly? I mean... This is what I'm talking about, right? They have this Gwen who's so monstrous. Now, 4 items, by the way, has both the Banshees and the Zhonya's. So basically immortal at this point and doing 1 million damage. You have Corki Jinx, who are spiking super hard. 3 items plus a stopwatch each. And to top it all off, triple Mountain Soul, big shields, extra resist. It is very hard to see BLG finding a way in. But I said that before, and they definitely found a fight. We'll have to see what they can do.
I love that. This is the most liberal use of the Jinx ults that I've ever seen in the game. These Super Mega Death Rockets just being used as poke on full health targets. I'm not sure I've ever seen an AD carry doing this before. Gala very much making his own style of Jinx known here in this game. Xiaohu with the rockets as well. It's just rockets from both of these carries coming out from RNG, and it feels very difficult for BLG to weather the storm. They're trapped in their base now, and it's only going to get harder for them as RNG. They've got a minute until this Baron comes up, and they have complete control.
Yeah, they pushed so deep there. They can now move back through, try and make sure they have vision control. There is that one control ward that BLG have, pretty instrumental one that'll help them at least have some information or have somewhere they can potentially TP to, but it's still RNG massively in control. Bin is level 18, by the way. And I mean, I said it before, but look at those items. It's so disturbing, right? You're so hard to kill. You have the Zhonya's active and the shield from the Banshees, plus all the stats that Gwen just gets for free. Amplified. Like, remember, her W, it's not just the fact that you can't hit her. She also gets free resist. And that's amplified by the fact you have triple Mountain Soul. It really feels like RNG have hit critical mass. And for BLG, I think we saw what they did before was the pick to Xiaohu. You have to blow someone up at the start of the fight. Let WeiWei get the resets.
So BLG need to find a pick, but Aux, how do they make that happen? How do you put yourself in the position to find that crucial pick?
I think the big thing is that you have to wait for someone to step up to fish for poke, right? Xiaohu in particular is someone who we've seen step forwards, look for an opportunity to poke the enemy team. That's the window, but the problem is you have to layer it super well. He has flash, he has Valkyrie, he has stopwatch. If you Zenith Blade onto him like this, he just Valkyries away, right? Even if you catch him, he can just stopwatch. You have to instantly CC him and catch him off guard, which is why it's so difficult, because every moment you miss and engage, that's more poke coming out from the other side.
Pushing in for deep vision once more. They can just start this Baron off if they want to try and force the fight. No vision for BLG as they use their blue trinket. They do have one more blue trinket use available. Doggo has that trinket to spot out the Baron, but RNG they can just do this all day long. They can rinse and repeat this endlessly. The poke coming out from Xiaohu will make it incredibly difficult for BLG to push in. Look at the health boss from BLG. The fight's not even started yet. And Xiaohu can now just open fire on the whole squad. Crisp tries to base check, but what can you do? FoFo, he's going to get flame chomped, he's going to get kept in the fight, but maybe this is the opportunity. The damage coming out from Breathe is insane, and now Doggo here trying to finish these ones off, but the ward blocking a lot of his autos here. Infernum, not enough, and they're chased out of the choke.
Ends up being messy, and BLG nearly find a way in, but the only reason is because RNG was still finishing the Baron. As soon as Bin turned up, they wanted none of that and instantly back away. RNG still come out ahead, but it was messy, right? Still gold going over to BLG. At the end of the day, the Baron is in RNG's hand, and they got what they wanted. Look at the replay of that one, and the poke is so severe, but the critical thing has been still on the Baron, right? The engage attempt is to stop that poke coming out, but there's just Xiaohu's too safe in the Corki. And then we see, look at FoFo dodging the rocket, nearly going down. But then Breathe finds this beautiful jump in over the wall. The AoE's there from Doggo. They manage to get a kill, but the reset can't come in because WeiWei dies in the AoE. It's unfortunate, and that's the sort of fight where if there wasn't such a goal lead from RNG, BLG probably could have just won that outright.
Yeah, exceptional stuff from Breathe, from Doggo there. Breathe getting the stun on everyone, and then the ulti coming out from Doggo to follow up. This is what we've been talking about. They need to find these individual moments. They need to find these plays, but like Ming doing such a good job of blocking Crisp's engage makes it so difficult. And guess what? Another Drake is coming up in 30 seconds. This time, though, it's the Elder Drake. This is not one that BLG can afford to lose. They thought they had to fight for the last one. Well, this one's a game ender. This Wei pushes into the jungle. Xiaohu's been caught. Package used. That's a good find from WeiWei. But the thing is, he's currently losing his entire base. They might just lose the game on the spot. That's a TP. Having to be used by FoFo. Flame Chomper's come down. FoFo's out of there. RNG are just going to snowball down the game. They run out of minions, though. In the meantime, the jungle has gone down as Wei is just chopping through everyone alongside Xiaohu. It's an absolute disaster for BLG. This game couldn't have ended in a worse fashion after such a tense, close game. It all falls apart off of a single macro decision, and RNG find themselves game one of the Spring Gala.
The confidence there to push up mid. They knew BLG were like, we have to maintain control of the Dragon area. If we lose Elder, then we lose the game. But if you lose your Nexus, then you definitely lose the game. And RNG confident just to push up mid. They couldn't respond in time. And the Gwen and the Jinx absolutely massacring those towers. I think RNG, it wasn't the quickest game, it wasn't the flashiest game, but man, was it clean. They were fully in control. And there was only a couple of moments where BLG were able to answer. And with the caliber of BLG, it kind of just shows how clean RNG were, that they didn't give them much of a window.
And it feels like both of these teams, like I said it during the game, playing with such respect, but then the split second you overstep, both of these teams are totally willing to pounce, totally willing to find that window and destroy you. We saw it with the fight where Breathe gets the stun and Doggo gets the ult on top of it. And outside of that, we saw it with every single fight from RNG across the course of the series. And creative package use as well. We only saw 1 or 2 packages used during the fights. Like, great stuff from BLG to be able to force a lot of those out outside of the plays. But, like, especially during the Rift Herald play where we saw the package used just as an equalizer, just to keep the enemy team away to find those objectives.
Yeah, and I think there were moments, right? We saw that BLG were trying when they managed to pick Xiaohu and get the Baron. That was like the one point where they found some great execution and punished. But I think just the problem was when you're faced against the likes of the Corki, the Jinx, the Gwen, these carries just eventually hit critical mass, and you didn't really have great tools to deal them, right? And I think part of the problem is you have the Viego, not the most proactive early jungler. Breathe, unfortunately, wasn't even winning the 1v1 matchup against Bin. And it just felt like in team fights, unless RNG messed up and BLG were flawless, it should just be easy sailing. I think particularly that last one around the Baron, you saw Xiaohu just poking them out, right? And they were like, well, we have to engage because we're just going to lose our health bars. And like in that scenario, you don't even end up finding a good engage. You just go for any engage. And it's so hard to capitalize when, you know, Jinx has cleanse, Corki has his Valkyrie. They both had stopwatches. Just very difficult from that position. I think the main takeaway for BLG is more early agency, right? You can't just face scaling of that caliber and expect to match it.
Yeah, I feel like the longer this split goes on, the more I feel like whoever has more range wins if the game goes long like this. Every single time, it feels like whoever has the better long-range composition ends up coming out on top. And when it's Jinx versus Aphelios, I'd say 90% of the time, it feels like Jinx comes out on top, at least from my perspective. We'll see if that story continues or if the draft is going to change things up. We're going to go to game number 2. We'll find out if BLG have more in the tank.